So where do I need to be? Where do we need to be? That is the board gaming question that I ask myself turn one, round one, phase one, whatever it is of the game, to put myself in an optimal position. And this is the tactica that we're going to look at across multiple types of board gaming environment. This is not just limited to, say, one type. 3 examples. You are playing Game of Thrones. You've got your house, you've got your deployment, you've got your little section on the map, and turn one, you're asking yourself, okay, alliances, resources, where am I going to invade? What am I going to conquer? What kind of diplomacy am I going to enact? Then we hop over to Zombicide Invader, where you're on the map, you have a starting spawn point. I don't have any control over that starting spawn point, but from there, where am I going to go? What's the mission objectives? Do I have to pick up the experimental tech? Do I have to rescue the scientists? Do I need to just survive and make it to the exit? Then we jump over to one of my favorite titles, Runebound. Where do we go? Where's my character? Are there some items that I want to buy in the various cities? Should I go questing to fight some monsters? How should I level up? How do I prepare myself for this end game? So we ask ourselves these questions, of course, naturally turn by turn. Turn 2, turn 3, round 2, round 3. That hopefully puts us in a condition to face that boss, win, or in the case of Invader, just to be the last person on that ship before it leaves the planet, before it leaves planet side. But turn 1 is especially important. Turn 1 is especially important because depending on the game, there are 2 factors in play that will never be in play again. So we really want to utilize this momentum. If we want to think of it as deployment, we want to use this momentum turn 1 to position ourselves to not only make massive gains in turn 2, 3, 4, and 5, but also pull ahead a little bit of the other players, or in the case of Zombicide Invader, the spawns, the narrative, so we can take advantage of any possibilities. Now, here's why turn 1 is so important. The other players are more or less at the same power level that you are. If it's a game where you are going against the other players, like Game of Thrones, someone might be a little bit stronger with a starting ability, or maybe just on the random deployment on the map. If it's that type of game, they have a slight advantage because maybe they can pull out to 2 or 3 territories where you're landlocked. You can only move into 1. But you could say later on that landlock will be a nice base to fortify. But from that perspective, everyone has started the game and you are as close to equal as you are going to be. Every turn that goes by, there's going to be this shift. Some players are going to start to pull ahead and gain advantage. Now, maybe that's through just luck, rolling the dice, maybe through its smart tactica decisions. Maybe it's a combination of both. And likewise, other players are going to pull behind through dice, or if you're like me, because I gambled big turn 1 with that invasion and it just failed miserably, and I really set myself back a number of turns that was hard to recover from. But I was aware of what I was doing going for tabletop glory. So we're going to pull ahead and move behind. You are going to move somewhere in that ladder, somewhere in that order. The first turn is when you make those gains. You position yourself. The other factor leading into turn 2 and turn 3 is the fact that the state of the game is as stable as it's going to be. Zombicide Invader. You've got your starting point, or Black Plague, any of these Z-type games. You have your heroes, you have a couple of zombies out, but the spawns haven't started yet. The spawn points haven't started yet. The zombies haven't started to build up in these waves and coming at you. So now's the time to search for weapons or gear. Now's the time to get moving. You can literally, in theory, move anywhere on the board. Now I can move down to the lower right corner. Massive spawns happen there. Chain spawns just by the luck of the draw, and I'm pushed back. Or there could be some light spawns. But at the beginning of the game, that is where you have the advantage to move everywhere. Looking at Runebound. Well, so Runebound, as you move, there's these points on the map, encounter gems. And depending on the color of the gem, it's either going to be combat, it's going to be a quest, or a social interaction. You kind of meet an NPC. Those quests are scattered about key points on the map. When you encounter a quest and complete it, the gem gets removed. Now, at different times in the game, it gets refreshed. There's a timer track. When it hits a certain point, they get refreshed. But the idea is if two players are moving down to the lower left because there's a couple of items in that city, they're going to do some encounters, they're going to get some gold, those gems are going to get gobbled up really fast. So this is the chance at the beginning of the game when all the gems are on the table, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And likewise, if it's a command and control type game like Game of Thrones, where am I going to move on the map because there's the least resistance at this moment? So that tactic, and we just looked at 3 titles I've played and titles in my collection. You can and should apply this idea of momentum, board gaming momentum, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, depending on the game, depending on the phases of the turn, that opening move, so to speak, that opening library happens for 3 turns. After that, now you're in the ladder. Now, certain areas of the map or the board are harder to control or easier to control, or things are in flux. And now players are moving to position themselves towards those wins.